Hello, party people. So let me start off with a forewarning about this topic. This is the first episode of my podcast, in case you guys are wondering. I don't see how a podcast is different from a playlist on YouTube, but I guess there's more functions and how you can search for podcasts on YouTube and it'll only show podcasts. But that seems weird to me to look up videos, but it won't show you a podcast related to the video. I don't know. But we're experimenting with it. For all we know, this could be the one episode and it could be over after this. But I did want to talk about this. In America right now, statistics supposedly say that I think it's 1.14% of Americans identify as transgender. Whether that be male to female, female to male, anything in between, etc. That's I don't think people realize what that 1.14% is. It's about 3 million Americans. 3 million people. Could be your neighbor, could be someone you bump into. You really don't know. In the bucket of the population of America, is that significant? I mean, it does make a percentage. That's all I'm saying. So, in the order of how we would expect things to discuss this, if we go from birth to like age 40, age 60, etc. Correct me if I'm, a lot of stuff I know, a lot of stuff I don't know, so I can't emphasize that enough. Puberty blockers. Puberty blockers is basically a chemical that you would take if a teenager, for example, wanted to explore the gender more and not physically commit to a certain gender, whether that be male or female. So the thing is, obviously any chemical, any medicine has its side effects. Now, one of the problems with puberty blockers is, I don't know if you get them from like a doctor's prescription or you just go to Planned Parenthood. I know Planned Parenthood does specialize in hormone replacement therapy, but we'll get to that. For now, logically, if your body is meant to grow, as in like grow bigger or taller or longer or whatever, your bones are going to suffer from the delayed growth. So, is that life-threatening? I mean, maybe not. But there is a large argument within the transgender movement and those who are opposed to it. Can a teenager, even with counseling, talking to their doctors talking to their parents, and if the parents allow it, etc. Because like, you could be the most convinced person, a transgender person that you are, that you want to take HRT. Now, the thing about HRT is, does a person under 18 years old have the capacity to understand how life-changing taking HRT is? Now, when you're 18, and this is my opinion, because this is my podcast, in my opinion, when you're 18, you can do whatever the fuck you want. And if you're still living with your parents, then logically, you should probably consider at the least what their opinion is about blah blah blah. Assuming they're not abusive or negative or whatever you want to call it. Assuming they're normal, open-minded parents, as open-minded as you are, ideally. Does that always happen? No, unfortunately. I've heard a lot of talk about people who become transgender and start taking HRT, whether that be estrogen or testosterone. to stop doing it, stop taking it at the age of 40, or possibly older in some cases. I've heard 60 as well. Why? Why would you live your whole life trying to become who you think you are and want to be for the rest of your life, but you would stop taking it? So I had to do a little bit of research about this, right? The potential risks of HRT, I'm reading this off Google right now, include, I believe this is either transitions or whatever transitions, increase in breast cancer risk, blood clots, and strokes. Those are pretty serious things. At least the cancer and the strokes are. It doesn't make sense to me, because, okay, let me read it. If a woman experiences early menopause before the age of 40, HRT might be considered to manage the symptoms, but should still be discussed thoroughly with a healthcare professional. Now, I posted a video recently of a Dr. Phil little clip or montage or whatever, and it said there was this female who was confused. They thought they had gender dysphoria, and they began transitioning as a male, and eventually introducing themselves as a transgender male. Now, the thing about that, right? It was really easy for this person to get a prescription for HRT. Like, they barely talked to a doctor. They didn't have any therapy. They didn't. I'm not sure where the parents were at in this particular case, but they were never mentioned. So, I don't know, use your imagination, I don't know. But essentially, if you stop taking HRT at a certain age, right? Because right here, again, stopping HRT at 40 years old is generally not recommended, because most women at that age are not yet experiencing menopause, meaning they likely don't need hormone replacement therapy, and potential risks associated with HRT might outweigh the benefits at such a young age. However, always consult your doctor to discuss your individual situation and whether HRT is appropriate for you. When you stop taking HRT at any age, whether that be, obviously the longer you go on, the harder it's going to be to, a term I didn't know, it's called detransition. In that Dr. Phil clip, detransition meant, in this particular case, a female transitioning to a male and then going back to a female. So they detransitioned. The dangers of that, as far as I know, are, in general, there's not that much data about scientific facts and data about the results of the transgender movement, like becoming transgender. And that's because nobody used to talk about this stuff. Like, if you imagine, like, 20 years ago, were there, the politically incorrect term, were there cross-dressers out there? Of course. Do they look like transgenders from nowadays? Stereotypically, no. If you've ever seen like a drag show or something, right? Like, the guy will be in a dress, for example, but still have facial hair. It's not like it's trickery, because it's not. If you're transgender and someone thinks you're specifically definitely a certain gender, it's that person, the transgender's person, call whether they want to say who they are specifically and who they are not, etc. The problem is some people feel deceived by that. And when it gets to, you could go on a dating app right now, right, on your phone, and I guarantee you, if you just keep scrolling, keep swiping, you're going to find someone who is transgender. And if you don't read their profile, or whatever headline they have, whatever title, it's going to be kind of awkward. when they mention that to you and you don't know that because you didn't read their profile. But hey, that's online dating, right? Recently as well, I posted a video by Ali Jello, I think that's her name. Someone who's going from male to female transition. They have not had bottom surgery yet. It looks like they took HRT and developed the top portions, but there's no reason for, at least I don't think there's a reason for her to get top surgery, because with the estrogen, things should happen as naturally as possible. As I said, as possible with that, because okay, so testosterone and estrogen are naturally occurring hormones, right? When you put it into a medicine like a pill, for example, or a lotion, whatever, what else is in that chemical? Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, I'm not sure if either I myself would trust that, or if I would trust that for my kids, or if one of them had gender dysphoria and wanted to transition. Like, Ali brought up a good point, right? She said, what bathroom are you supposed to go to? Now, in my little hometown here, or whatever you want to call it, there's a coffee shop, and the bathroom says all gender bathroom, but it wasn't like a multiple person bathroom. There's basically just a urinal and a toilet inside there. That's it. A sink too, obviously. But the point is, if you're presenting male one day, you should be allowed to go to the men's restroom. If you're presenting female one day, see, here's the difference. If you're presenting female and you look convincing, there's a lot of people who tell you go to the female restroom, because if you identify as a female, you should be allowed to use that restroom. Now, this is where I got kind of confused, and like maybe this is just my own naivete, my own lack of knowledge, etc. There's people in female restrooms that think a natural born male walking into a female restroom is somehow a pedophile, in some sense, or somehow a rapist. And I'm thinking about this, right? I'm like, was there an incident, a criminal incident, where something like this happened and then it just blew up? I don't see any references to like cases where transgender women are raping or molesting children in a women's restroom. Like, I've never heard of that happening. I mean, has that happened somewhere in the history of mankind? Probably. But why would you assume that how does this conversation go? When you enter a female restroom, how does this conversation go? You look at the transgender woman and say, you're not female, you're a male, get out. How are they able to tell, especially if you present female very well? And if nobody can tell, you have no reason to tell the other women in the restroom, natural born women, that you're not a natural born woman. Like, why would you feel obligated to warn them about that? Versus why are they entitled to interrogate you about that? So it is a very slippery slope here. Now, the problem with transgender rights and issues in general, the whole movement, is that if you express your opinion, and for example, like me, if I say, I don't think anyone under 18 should be allowed to take HRT or puberty blockers or anything until they're 18. There are some people out there who will look at me and say that I'm transphobic for thinking that. It's an issue of accepting other people, but as soon as you express your opinion that is not a favorable opinion for their particular culture, their lifestyle, etc., suddenly you're the enemy. Like, yeah, you're the bad guy now. And it's like you're making a judgment on someone when you don't want other people to make judgments on you. I'm not saying that's hypocritical. I'm saying there's some confusion here, and I feel like the answer is education, medical science, not opinions. Whether you're left or right wing, that those things shouldn't matter. Like, am I the only one that seems to get this here? Now, I'm gonna give a little bit a personal story, and then we'll wrap this episode of the podcast up. About, I don't even know how long it's been. About maybe like 3 years ago or something. It's 2024 now, so maybe around like 2021. I was surfing YouTube, right? I was looking at my recommendations and whatnot, and like, I think I was looking at like a lot of funny YouTubers at the time, or like, you know, the guy who doesn't say a word and he just points at things, you know what I mean? And people like that, YouTube personalities like that. One day, I found a video by a femboy who said, well, they were voice trolling people on Omegle, that little chat thing that was like tried to be regulated, but it was like impossible to regulate all of it before it got shut down, or you know, it was closed by the owner. They were tricking them into thinking they were female using a female voice when they're really male biologically. Now, the thing about femboys and even other members of other lifestyles, you don't have to be gay to be a femboy. You don't have to be bi, you don't have to be straight. Now, femboy implies you're a male or even a transgender presenting as female. Now, there's this other thing I haven't talked about, because I recently just learned like the exact definitions and examples of it. What is an egg? Okay, so here's the thing. In terms of slang, an egg is a transgender person who doesn't know they're transgender yet. So one day that egg is gonna crack and they're gonna realize they are transgender. And this happens a lot more than people think. Whether that's because the individual inside the egg is in denial or just doesn't want to face whatever truth there might be, that's where the term egg comes from. Now, in terms of going back to my history of it, like, some of these voice trolling videos are fucking hilarious, man. And like, they don't show you the other side though. The other side is when someone, usually a guy, finds out that it's not a natural born female that they're talking to, that presumably is really a dude when they talk normally in their guy voice, their natural born voice, which is usually male. Now, when that happens, how do you think the guy reacts? The guy on the other end of the Omegle? Do you think they're happy about it? No, because they feel like they were embarrassed and they were tricked. Now, you don't see those videos. You don't see the part where the guy threatens the streamer, or, you know, calls them names, etc. You don't see that. You only see the funny clips. Now, there is one femboy I followed who like said you basically see the worst in humanity on Omegle at that time. And it doesn't have to be that way. but the world is the way it is. I mean, we all like to think that, being optimistic that these changes eventually will be accepted. This is kind of a sidebar, but if you notice, lesbian culture is becoming more and more common, and it is light years ahead of homosexual men being accepted. Because if you look in social media, if you look on TV, if you look on shows, episodes, how many times do you see lesbian couples versus homosexual males? You don't see that because that's not the current norm. Do you get what I'm saying? It's always been that way, where lesbians are more accepted than homosexual males. Anyone in between, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know how you divide that line. I don't know how you flip that coin. Maybe just further evolution in society is necessary. I don't know. Even in Thailand, they have those people known as lady boys. Like, that's been going on forever. Like, that was going on before this whole transgender movement. Now, I don't know what the right answer is, and there's a meme, right? But it does have some truth to it. I'll conclude with this. If I don't think I'm missing any other points I wanted to make, I have a little bit of notes here. There's a meme that says, if they look like a girl, then it's not gay. That's what the meme is. If they look that convincing, that the person on Mego that you're talking to, the streamer, if they look at them and are attracted to them because they think that's a girl, it's not gay because they were tricked. Do you get what I'm saying? So people react differently to a scenario like that, as they should. Everyone is from different walks of life, had different upbringings, have different opinions about the entire transgender movement. Now, I said several times, I'm an outsider to this. Like I feel like I learned a lot, but like I said, I know what I know, and I still don't know what I still don't know. So, am I actually a member of that community? I've been questioning it, and personally, I don't think I am. I think I'm an observer. I'm someone who wanted to learn, or at least be more educated about these things. And I don't want to say I wasn't exactly welcome, or that people assumed that I knew all the customs and courtesies when dealing with, observing, watching, talking to transgender people. Now, that kind of made me wonder, like, are they welcoming of new people, or are they only welcoming of people who are transgender? Now, I don't know what, because when you look at a voice troller or a femboy or whoever, you see one side of their personality, the side that is trying to entertain people, chat with people, etc., because that's their job. Either it's a hobby that they really like, or they're actually trying to make money from their personality on Twitch or YouTube. But I've even asked this. I've asked them, is there an etiquette book for talking to transgender people? And quite frankly, I don't think there is. Maybe someone needs to write one. But there were times where yes, personally, I felt like I didn't belong there. I felt like I didn't know enough about the culture, about etiquette, that it made me feel like, I don't want to say that I wasn't welcome there, because like there there were some streamers out there. The majority of them were understanding, open-minded, and willing to correct me when, quite frankly, when I was wrong, or I was perceived as wrong, which honestly made me feel bad. So because I'm not transgender, nor do I have any intention to be, do I fit in there? Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, am I a part of their typical audience? And I've started to think that maybe I'm not. Maybe it's not cool that I'm interacting with certain people because I can't relate to them in that sense. So if I can't relate to them, will I be able to communicate with them politely and effectively? I don't know. I mean, like, I spent a few years within this community, learning, observing, laughing sometimes at the jokes, whatnot. Because, like, to be a Twitch or YouTube personality, regardless of your sexual identity or gender or whatever, you have to be entertaining. You have to be funny. You have to be engaging. Like, there's some funny people out there who aren't necessarily within this culture, obviously. But does that help? If you're a magnetic person, right, and you just happen to be part of so-and-so community, being magnetic is going to help attract other people who are part of the community. But does it actually attract people like me? People who don't know everything, the history, etc. People who don't know what the new laws are going to be now that the election is over. Like, will you still be able to get HRT as easily as some people think or some people know you can? I don't know. I haven't been reading up on the laws and legislations and the future of this. 18. That's one view that I haven't wavered from in all of this. But there's stipulations. Of course there's stipulations. There's always stipulations. If you honestly feel like you're a certain gender when you're either around the teenager age or even younger, if your parents say it's okay, like Dwayne Wade, his daughter, who used to be male, and she's in a process of transitioning. If your parents say it's okay, if you've talked to doctors, therapists, whatever, then maybe. That's, in some cases, that should be fine. If they don't say it's okay, your only recourse is to wait until you're 18. I know it's not fair. I get it. Like, what are you supposed to do? You don't want to live as a person you're not. But now the argument comes in, how do you know for sure? Why are you so convinced that you're not the right gender? Is it possible you made a mistake? Is it possible you're going to regret this? Of course. But if that happens, and you've already had multiple surgeries, if you're going towards transitioning, if you've had the surgeries, it's not an easy road back. In some cases, you can't go backwards. I don't know, man. I don't have the solutions to these questions, the answers. I don't know who does. I mean, I've listened to femboys, obviously. I've listened to transgenders, either female to male or male to female, or even non-binary people of the queer community, lesbians, homosexuals, all these people. They have their own views on certain things. Is there an umbrella, a unifying theme? For some things, yes, there is. For a lot of things, it's dependent on the person, how knowledgeable you are about the side effects, etc., about surgeries, about side effects, about the long-term picture of if you were to stop taking HRT at the age of 40 or 60 or whatever. I don't want to sound like an uneducated asshole about this. I'm gonna, but hey, whatever. What if you're just gonna take something to live as who you want to be until you're 40? You're telling me you're willing to go through all those surgeries and then just stop taking the quote unquote right hormones for you? Because if you're growing up and you're born a male, for example, but you feel like you're trapped as a female inside that male body, wouldn't you want to spend the rest of your life living as who you want to be? So that begs the question, if you stop taking a certain hormone, are you still a male or female or whoever you want to be? And I don't have the answer to these things. I've searched. Dude, like, let me look at this right now. I want to share with you guys something. Give me 1 second here. Yeah, give me 1 second. I want to share with you some of my subscriptions on YouTube, and I will tell you right now that the people I've seen, right? Excuse me, just need to take a drink real fast. I'm not used to talking this long. Okay. I'm just gonna start mentioning people that I follow. Some of these are part of the transgender community, some are not. But I know for a fact they've all expressed opinions about these things. And the first being Elena Joy, who makes content based on the queer community, or just lesbians in general. Angelus, who was a Genshin Impact streamer who openly identified as a lesbian. Brienne Worth, lesbian, content creator, of course. There's Finster, who is one of the most original popular femboys, and everyone called him an egg, and he denied, and then one day he came out and said, I'm bisexual and I've been taking HRT. So everybody knew it was gonna happen, but he just wasn't ready yet for that, to admit to that happening. So Haley and Kendra, a couple that are lesbians, they discussed issues, etc. Let me see here. The old school Johnny Bullet Seeds, he's like a pioneer. His one video was like the beginning of like the whole femboy appearance. I don't want to say cross-dressing, but that might have been what it was called back then. Like this is a video from like, I think it's like the 1990s, maybe 2000s. It's him at an anime convention dressed as a female character, being a natural born male. And he wasn't doing the girl voice, at least not back then. And that video got like millions of views, and it's one of the most popular videos on the internet, like ever. I'm being dead serious. There's Aki, that is a transgender person who used to date Finster. They actually used to live together. Kiara Graves, lesbian. I've seen Making Emmy, who seems to be on and off creating content. I know there's more here. Let me find them. Rhinali. He's so Rhinali's an interesting case because he's a natural born male, but he still identifies as male, I believe. For him, he just enjoys dressing female, sometimes presenting female, and his personality basically stays the same no matter how outwardly he may appear. This is a little bit of a sidebar, but there's a channel called the Earthsea Spot. It's a very interesting channel. I highly recommend it. It's slowly gaining popularity, I noticed. But yeah, there's more, but I just can't think of them right now. I know there's Spicy Cow, or Cow. There's Peachy Bun, and so Cow is interesting in the sense that he's a gay male. He identifies as a gay male. Biologically, I'm pretty sure he's not taking HRT because he has no desire to. He doesn't need to. He still dresses female because the proportions of his body are naturally feminine. Like, seriously, if you saw a picture of this guy, like, you would be, if you just took a picture of his body and just cut his head off in a photo, you would think that would be a female's body. Like, that's how convincing it is for him biologically. Peachy Bun is a transgender who is friends with Cow. Like, I'm giving their whole history here, but like all I'm saying is like these people exist, and they are relatively popular. I mean, they wouldn't be doing what they're doing on Twitch and YouTube unless they were making money from it, unless they had an audience, unless people actually cared what they thought and said about. But I don't have the answers for all this. I mean, I wish I did. I wish I could understand things better in the community. And this is gonna sound, I don't want to say petty, but it's gonna sound like I have regrets. Like, it sort of felt and still feels like I sort of don't fit in there. You know what I mean? Because like I'm just some guy. I was looking for the right words to say. Some guy who enjoys this content of this community, but I don't belong to it. I observe from the outside, but I'm not actually inside the community, and I never have been. I probably never will. And that's okay, because I can't relate to transgender people. I can't relate to homosexual men or lesbians. I just find their, like, people think like I would just subscribe or follow to anyone who is a lesbian, and believe it or not, the fact of the matter is no. I follow the ones that I find entertaining, and who I subscribe to is my own business. Even though I know I just told you it right now, but you want to share me some of your subscriptions? I mean, like, are they all PG? Come on now. What are the odds I'm gonna find Amaranth on one of them? Huh? Okay. All right. So that was like 40 minutes of me talking on this podcast. This podcast by myself. I don't think I know anyone who would want to be a part of this podcast, this particular episode. Not the podcast as a whole, but this episode, the first episode of ours. I don't think they wouldn't want to do it because they're not knowledgeable about it. I think they wouldn't want to do it because if someone found out, they would be embarrassed about it. I'm not going to point any fingers. I'm not going to say anyone specifically. But if I ask everyone on my phone right now, do you want to come to an episode of my podcast and talk about the transgender movement? How many of them are going to be like, oh yeah, I really want to, can I? How many people are going to be that enthusiastic about it versus me asking them, thinking they're doing me a favor for this podcast? Do you get what I'm saying? Like, maybe embarrassment is too harsh, but it's not something they would advertise because that's not cool. That's not kosher. That's not traditional. you don't want someone labeling you as a supporter of a community that a lot of people might not support. And I really don't want to say it is what it is, but society, man. Society. I don't know how else to phrase it. Well, I hope you guys got some knowledge out of that. I wasn't really using any graphics or anything. It's just me sitting here talking, because, like, from the best of my knowledge, podcasts are somewhat like that. I'm supposed to have a room with all these other people on microphones talking at the same time. Obviously, this is in the works here. Maybe we'll get to some other topics that people actually want to talk about freely, without being judged. But yeah. It's sad, and maybe in like 10 or 20 years, hopefully, maybe sooner, people aren't gonna care about these labels anymore. But it's gonna take time, and it's gonna take education. And the problem is, as soon as there's one horror story about some medical thing happening or some shit like that, people are gonna assume what they want to assume, and that's unfortunate. All right, thanks for watching. Run It Back, guys. This is my podcast. This is called Run It Back. If we revisit this topic later, we'll be running it back. Okay, thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves and each other.